On this week's episode of the I-501CU podcast, I want to talk a little bit about year-end, fiscal year-end, and the new fiscal year right ahead. So many nonprofit boards have a fiscal year of July 1st through June 30th. That means your new fiscal year is just a couple months away. And there are things you really need to be thinking about as a board. Hey everybody, this is Michael Corley. Just wanted to let you know we are now sending out a weekly, very brief newsletter. Tips, tricks, pointers to nonprofit executives. That includes both board members and CEOs, executive directors. If you're interested in receiving this, please go to thecorleycompany.com/newsletter and you can sign up. Once again, that's thecorleycompany.com/newsletter. Let's talk about a few of those things. One, well, you got to be looking at board terms. Who's going to roll off and who do you need to bring on? So board recruitment, hopefully you're already in that process of recruiting new board members, but also identifying who are you going to lose and what skill set are you going to lose as a result of those people rolling off and what's going to be the impact to the organization. Officer transition. A lot of times this is when officers transition, whether it's the chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. You really need to be putting that slate of officers together, identifying who's interested. Do they have the skill set? Start to build in that transition, and you're going to have to take that vote before those people take over in the respective offices. So don't wait till the last minute to do that. Please plan ahead and be prepared. You know, fiscal year is an exciting time because it's really a newness time. A lot of organizations will do their retreats, their annual meetings at that time to talk about a number of things, to position themselves for the next year. Number one really is to talk about strategy. What's going to be the 2-3 things the organization is going to focus on next fiscal year? Clearly, the board chair needs to lead that along with his or her officers and with the CEO/executive director. So give the CEO some direction and as a board say, these are the areas we want to focus on over the next year. Because that's how you should evaluate the CEO. So start to prepare the CEO evaluation a year ahead of time. How are you going to measure her? Wow, what areas do you want him to focus on? Whatever the case may be. It's just not one of those you do the assessment at year end and go, oh gosh, you did a really good job. Which actually takes me back to this time of year right now. If you assess your CEO, your executive director on a fiscal year basis, and your fiscal year is going to conclude in the next couple months, please start the process of assessing your CEO. The executive director clearly wants that feedback. A lot of board members don't spend time doing this, and I can tell you that it makes a huge difference to the person leading your organization, that CEO, if you board members take the time to do that. Number 4, I've lost count, so I don't know if it's 4 or 5, but time for conflict of interest policy update and have everybody sign their conflict of interest forms. That's some basic governance stuff that everybody ought to do. And with the new fiscal year rapidly approaching, think about the transition process. Start to plan ahead. Look back, what went well over the past year? What could we do better? Kind of a self-assessment from an organizational perspective. Reflect on the mission, the vision, the values. We're talking strategy now in the strategic plan. How are things going from that perspective? And is now the time to plan ahead to do a board assessment or to conduct a board assessment? That's a self-assessment. It's for the board to really analyze itself. Are you doing everything you should do as a board member, as a board, to help drive the mission of the organizations? Take advantage of the newness of a new fiscal year. Evaluate everything, evaluate from ground up. Look at your governance principles, look at your strategy, look at your board composition. And again, what do you want to accomplish over the next year? And just have some fun with it. Newness is a great time to try something different and look at things prospectively. Take some time to look at things reflectively, but also prospectively, and just have some fun. And commit that this year is going to be the best year as a board and for your nonprofit organization. You're going to continue to drive the mission and make the impact that you want to make in your community. This is Michael Corley. Those are some of my thoughts on the end of a fiscal year, the beginning of a new fiscal year. I appreciate you listening, and I will see you next week on the I-501CU, the podcast for nonprofit board members.